Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 29, entitled The Status Quo, verse number 26. Karoti antarodaram tasya bhinna drisho mrityu vidadhe bhayam ulbanam atmanascha parasyapi yakaroti antarodaram tasya bhinna drisho mrityu vidadhe bhayam ulbanam atmanascha parasyapi yakaroti antarodaram tasya bhinna drisho mrityu vidadhe bhayam ulbanam
Atmanasya parasyapi karoti antarodaram tasya vinna vidyo vidyo vaya pupara
Atmanah of himself. Cha and parasya of another. Api also. Yaha one who karoti discriminates. Antara between. Udaram the body. Tasya of him. Binnadrisha having a differential outlook. Mrityuhu as death. Vidade by cause. Bhayam fear. Ulbanam great. Translation. As the blazing fire of death, I cause great fear to whoever makes the least discrimination between himself and other living entities because of a differential outlook. Sentence seems to be grammatically it was anyway. Sorry, I got stuck in English. Purport by His Divine Grace is Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. There are bodily differentiations among all varieties of living entities. But a devotee should not distinguish between one living entity and another on such a basis. A devotee's outlook should be that both the soul and the super soul are equally present in all varieties of living entities. Om Gyantimirandasya Gyananyanashalakaya Chakshurumpalita Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadambihyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutaha Bhagavatam Shri Guru Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajata Sahagana Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadotam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Tamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sudede Pranamami Haripriya Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vacha Patiyanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Vedanta Srivastava Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Ram Hare Krishna. So we are in a series of Srimad Bhagavatam where we're discussing about the relationship between a living entity and the spiritual and the Supreme Lord. And here, the idea about the relationship of God and living entity, to help us understand this relationship, I'm going to pick up a story from the Bhagavad Puran, the story of Rukmini connecting with Lord Krishna. And this entire story, we're going to analyze it from the point of view of a living entity connecting with Krishna. So, through this whole journey of Rukmini connecting with Lord Krishna, we can all explore our own connection with Krishna, how we want to connect with Krishna, how we want to develop our relationship with Krishna. And you'll find some amazing alignment in the story of Rukmini and the story of our life. The story of Rukmini starts with her father, Bhishmaka, wanting to get Rukmini married to Shishupal because of the force of her brother, Rukmini. Srimad Bhagavatam always begins with connections. If you study, there are many chapters of Srimad Bhagavatam that only has names of kings. You know, this king, then his son, this king, his son, this king, his son, this king. I mean, it goes on for like pages and pages and pages, literally whole chapter only this only. So we begin to wonder, you know, is there so much need? Are we interested in names of all those kings? You know, the reason why Srimad Bhagavatam talks about connections is because connections are important. Who we are is a product of who we are connected to, whether we agree or not. The American culture is to make everything short. If you have a big name, you somehow shorten it and make it as short as possible. And remove all the connections, remove all the surname, remove all the, you know, the full names, just keep essence very short. But the Bhagavatam doesn't believe in that. The Bhagavatam believes that we are a byproduct of who we are connected to. When I do leadership trainings in corporates, I do a session on creating leaders, how one can create leaders, succession basically. And of the many points that I speak about, one of the things I speak about is if you want to make someone a leader, if you want to choose someone as a leader, one of the things you should definitely look for is find out what is the relationship of that person with his mother. It's very interesting. Depending on your connection with your mother, there is a lot of emotional, mental stability that comes into your life. There's a lot of security that comes into your life. Those who do not have a good relationship with their mother, somewhere, the way they take care of other people and the way they handle their own lives is a little shaky. Yeah. Connections are very powerful, very important. It can't be neglected. So Bhishmaka was connected to Rukmini as a father, and therefore there is a whole description of Bhishmaka, his qualities, his children, his wives. I mean, you read all that, you say, come on, come to the story, you know. But that's where the importance is. You know, there's a connection. So Rukmini, she lived in Vidarbha, which is in Maharashtra. But in Vidarbha, there would be Brahmanas coming from Dwaraka and from many other places. And these Brahmanas invariably would talk about Krishna. And not just Brahmanas, even merchants who came from Dwaraka to sell their wares in Vidarbha. They would talk about Krishna. And regularly, Rukmini Devi heard about Krishna's glories from all these people. And as she kept hearing about Krishna's glories, slowly she began to fall in love with Krishna. without even seeing him. It's not that Krishna had a very active Instagram page, where he kept posting all his latest pictures, Rukmini Devi following him with all the updates. Absolutely nothing. She never saw him, but she only heard about him. Just like all of us, we can see the deity form of Krishna, but we haven't really seen Krishna, isn't it? But we somehow fell in love with him just by hearing Bhagavatam classes, just by hearing about the Krishna's glories, reading in the scriptures. And as we keep reading and as we keep hearing, we somehow start feeling a connection. So when she felt very strongly connected to Krishna, she decided to make a choice. This is the first C in your spiritual life, choices. We all have choices in life. We can either choose Krishna or we can choose Shishupal. If we choose Shishupal, it's a very convenient life. No problems only. Family is agreed already. Society has agreed already. Everyone has agreed that she marries Shishupal. Politically, good alignment, basically. So whenever we choose Shishupal, which represents our mind, no problem at all in life. Mind is very cooperative. Mind is very, very enthusiastically assisting you in ideas for sense gratification. Choosing Shishupal doesn't bring challenges in your life. But choosing Krishna brings in challenges. Between birth and death, B and C, the B and D, there is C. Those are choices. Every day of our life, we make choices. Every day of our life, we are either choosing Krishna or choosing Maya. It is a very interesting way in which Radhanath Maharaj puts this. He says, we have 2 years, and in both our years, 1 year Krishna is whispering, and in another year Maya is speaking. Usually Krishna whispers and Maya shouts. And it's easy to hear the voice of Maya because it is very loud and it's very intense, it's very fervent, and it's very often that you hear the voice of Maya. But the voice of Krishna is feeble. It's a whisper. And to hear the voice of Krishna, you have to really strain yourself. So simultaneously, both these voices are going on in our heart, in our lives. And we have to choose one. Most people are not able to choose Krishna because it is not easy to choose Krishna. It is not the trend of the world to choose Krishna. I mean, I was coming in a flight some time back, and I was sitting with one guy. This fellow just happened to ask me, "What are you doing?" And also, I was trying to tell him something. I told him about Bhagavad Gita. I told him about Ramayana. I told him about Krishna. This guy staring at me. He said, "I've never heard of these words in my life." Imagine, he said, I never heard the word Bhagavad Gita in his life. I never heard the word Krishna in my life. And he's telling me, I know Hinduism. I've heard the word Hindu, he's telling me. That's the maximum he's heard. So imagine, we're dealing with and this guy, and he was inspiring me to take up Christianity, giving me pamphlets, and he was giving me, So that's how choosing Krishna is so rare. Not everyone can choose Krishna. Not everyone can understand Krishna. Not everyone will want to choose Krishna because that's not the trend of the world. The trend of the world is something else. But we are trying to inspire people to choose Krishna. The moment you make choices, immediately the second C comes in your life, which is challenges. Challenges will come. The day someone decides to give up onion, garlic, tea, coffee, that day only something will happen that will make them repent their choice. The day we decide that I will do this spiritually to progress, that day only something will happen which will stop you from doing that. Why? The nature of the material world is like that, The material world is designed to challenge us and to challenge our taking of Krishna consciousness. This world is like a washing machine. You've seen how, if you want to understand how this world works, you sit and observe how the washing machine works. You'll get a good idea about how the world works, That's why they keep that washing machine, glass transparent. So that you can sit and understand what's happening, And interestingly, that's exactly what happens to all of us in the material world. We're all dirty, thrown into the material world, And there's a process of cleaning that is happening. And that process of cleaning is very intense. You see the cloth over there, you feel bad for that cloth, Squeezing it and turning it and so much water and so much soap, and it's hell for that cloth, isn't it? Round, 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 round. It's pretty intense for that cloth. But if it goes through that process of getting beaten up, getting squeezed and getting pinched and getting so many things happening to the cloth, then finally it comes out clean. So, if you observe the cloth being beaten up in the middle, you feel very bad for it. But in the end, you feel it is worth all that. So all of us, the moment you make the right choice, you're put into the washing machine and the beating up starts. All kinds of troubles, all kinds of problems, all kinds of situations that are very challenging. Mentally, physically, I mean, imagine getting up for Mangalarti at 4 o'clock in the morning and having a bath in the cold waters, running into the cold atmosphere. Not easy, isn't it? The bed is so comfortable, the bed is so soft, the bed is so cozy. And chanting 16 rounds, not at all easy, isn't it? I mean, imagine if you are given a choice, Krishna tells you, you can go back to Godhead without chanting at all. How many people will chant? Tell me. It's a good question, isn't it? How many people actually chant enthusiastically after that also, I don't think so. Because it's not easy, None of what we are doing spiritually is easy. But we have made the choice. And because we have made the choice, we are ready to face whatever challenges come as a consequence of those choices. Rukmini made the choice that she's going to choose Krishna. And the moment she decided to make the choice can be made only based on good hearing. If the quality of your hearing is not good, then the quality of your choices will not be good. If the quality of your hearing is very good, the quality of your choices will also be very good. So the moment you make the choice, the moment Rukmini made the choice, challenges began in her life. The first challenge was how to handle Shishupal, how to handle her father, how to handle her brother, and more than anything else, how to connect with Krishna. She had no idea. She loved Krishna, but she had no idea whether Krishna even knew her existence. And the reality was, Krishna didn't even know that there was a princess called Rukmini in some place that really wants to connect with him. So Rukmini, in her limited situation, now imagine in those days, 5,000 years before, when there was so much of restrictions on what a female could do and not do, and how she could connect with anyone in society. I mean, nowadays you have so many dating apps and so many ways of connecting. One swipe here, one swipe there, and you make connections, isn't it? But in those days, if a woman and the two a princess wanted to make a connection with a boy, not at all easy. But Rukmini Devi decided, no matter what, I have made the choice. I'm ready to face the challenges that come in my life. Once you decide that no matter what happens, I want to make that choice, and I'm ready to face the challenges. The next step in the journey of spirituality is to find someone that can help you. So when you make choices, challenges come in your life. Challenges test your commitment. Most people, when they face challenges in their life, which test their commitment, the first thing they give up is their commitment. If you look at our own lives, when we took up the process of Krishna consciousness seriously, we decided that, we will take up the process of Krishna consciousness seriously. There will be so many ways in which our commitments are challenged. I remember when I was a young boy, I think I was 18 or 19 years at that point. And I had taken up Krishna consciousness very seriously. I decided I'm going to chant 16 rounds and I was like following the regulative principles. And, I lived in Goa, of all places, Whenever I tell people, I'm going in a flight to Goa and, people are looking at me in dhoti kurta and they're telling me, Maharaj, Abhi. They're thinking that I'm going there to have fun in the beaches in Goa. And when I tell people that I grew up in Goa, they get even more shocked, And then if I tell people I grew up in Goa and didn't even drink, they faint. They literally faint. So I remember when I was, 19 years of age, and I had a big group of friends. Many of them were completely into, all kinds of vices, And I had this boy who was my best friend, really, really close, So one day I'd gone to his house for his birthday party or something like that, And this guy forcing me to drink wine, literally forcing me. I'm telling him I don't want to. He's like, no, you have to. He got the glass of wine and he kept it here in my lips, literally. And he was telling me, open your mouth, open your mouth. I said, no. And he held it there for a minute or two. And I kept my mouth closed for a minute or two. And then finally this guy gave up. Fortunately, he never tried again. But look at that. That's how close, you come to, testing your commitments, isn't it? So whenever challenges come, whenever you make the choices, there will be challenges, and those challenges are a test of your commitment. A lot of people, when they come across this test of commitment, they lose. And the moment you lose once, you just have to lose once. That's all. The moment you lose once, the mind will tell you it's okay the second time also. I know so many people, they decide, chant 16 rounds, they said, chalo, one day I will, what if I don't chant 1 round or 2 rounds, I miss. The next day, mind will tell you, yesterday you miss, it's okay to miss today also, That's how the cycle begins. You have to just miss once. And that becomes a norm. So anything that becomes that you do, that tests your commitment and you just lose to it once, it kind of becomes very difficult, So Rukmini, she was intensely being tested. Her commitment to Krishna was being tested by the circumstance in which she was. And she realized the only way I can live up to my commitment, the only way I can actually live up to my commitment is if I have a connection with a spiritual master. That's the 4th C. Choices, challenges, commitment, and the 4th one is connection. Rukmini Devi decided to send a letter to Krishna. And she decided to send the letter to a Brahmana. And she chose a Brahmana who was qualified. The Srimad Bhagavatam, interestingly, gives the qualification of a Brahmana, of the Brahmana she chose. And why does the Bhagavatam talk about the qualification of the Brahmana that she chose? Because the Brahmana represents the spiritual master. When you choose someone to give your message to Krishna, that person should be a bona fide person. That person should have a connection, should have the ability to connect with Krishna. And when this Brahmana eventually reaches Krishna, Krishna asks this Brahmana many questions about his purity, about his practices. So Krishna is also making sure that this person is the right person getting the right message, isn't it? So the disciple tests the spiritual master and Krishna tests the spiritual master. And only when the disciple and Krishna test the spiritual master and both feel that this is the right person, there's an alignment. Of course, the spiritual master also tests the disciple. That's a different story. But in this particular thing, we're seeing that Rukmini is taking shelter of Krishna through the Guru, through a Brahmana. So Rukmini, in her letter, she expresses her heart. And it's so beautiful the way she writes the letter to Krishna. This letter of Rukmini Devi is one of the most beautiful episodes in the Srimad Bhagavatam, where Rukmini is talking about her desire to connect with Krishna on a spiritual level. So now, in this one thing, we can learn something very, very important for our spiritual lives. It is important that we express our heart to Krishna. And to express our heart to Krishna, it has to be in our own unique way, according to our own unique situation, according to our own unique realizations. Of course, we can, pray according to the prayers that are there in the Bhagavatam of great devotees and all that. That's wonderful. But we have to have a personalized approach towards Krishna. See, everybody cannot connect with Krishna in the same way. It is not possible only. We're all made unique. So our approach towards Krishna also has to be unique. And that's what makes it special for Krishna. Otherwise, how boring it is. Everybody approaching the same way. Even when you're giving love letter, a person who gives love letter in a unique way gets more attention. Isn't it? Yeah. There has to be some uniqueness. There has to be some speciality in the way you connect with him. You figure out what is your uniqueness. Even foolishness can be a uniqueness. I'm foolish. That's my uniqueness. That's why if you see many acharyas, they talk about their foolishness. They talk about their ignorance. So they are trying to find their own unique ways of connecting with Krishna. So let us all find our own unique ways of writing love letters to Krishna. Let us all find our own unique ways of connecting with Krishna in such beautiful ways. And as I said, whatever we offer Krishna has to go through the Guru. When we do deity worship in the temple, when we're doing arti to the Lord, the understanding that is given to us is that we are not doing the arti. We're doing the arti on behalf of the Guru. Ideally, all the temples are the responsibility of the spiritual master. The spiritual master ideally should be doing arti in all these places. But because he cannot be present everywhere, he gives one of his disciples the responsibility to do it on his behalf. So when we are doing that arti, offering the arti to the Lord, it's actually a message that we are sharing to the Lord. Right? Every ritual that we do, it's a letter that we are writing to the Lord. So that letter has to be packaged in an envelope. The ritual is like the envelope. Whatever ritual it is, whether it is doing the arti or whether it is cleaning the temple, whatever ritual we're doing, it's the envelope. But for you to send a letter to someone, along with the envelope, you also need to put a letter inside, which is a handwritten letter or whatever type letter. Now imagine somebody sends the envelope sealed nicely with stamp and with address and everything in place, but he forgets to put the letter only. How stupid, isn't it? So many of us, that's what we're doing. We're sending empty envelopes to Krishna. We're doing arti nicely, perfect. 2, 3, 4, all numbers we know perfectly. Nicely, we're doing all that rituals. But you forget somehow, within that ritual, there has to be a message. And that message is a message of love. And each one of us have to draft our own unique messages to Krishna. Unique message of love to Krishna. And we send it through the spiritual master. So Rukmini Devi sent this letter through this Brahmana. And she knew that this person is a right person to connect me with Krishna. We don't connect with Krishna directly. Very difficult. And we should not also. We should connect with Krishna via the spiritual master, via the representative of the spiritual master. So this Brahmana went all the way to Dwarka. And in Dwarka, there is a policy that any Brahmana that comes, he can walk anywhere into any part of Dwarka, including the innermost chambers of Krishna's house. Now imagine what trust Krishna has in Brahmanas, isn't it? Everybody else has restriction how many levels of entry you can get. You know, like in corporate offices, you have these cards, right? Access cards. It only gives you access to some rooms, not everywhere. And somebody has an access card that goes everywhere, you know. That's how Brahmanas are. Interestingly, there is a scientist whose name is, I think, some K.R. Rao or something like that, you know. He's done extensive survey on Dwarka city, submerged city of Dwarka. And he found that in that ancient ruins of Dwarka, they discovered some stones. These are flat stones and with particular types of carvings in it. And those flat stones were access cards in Dwarka. If you show that stone, you know, you get a particular level of entry into the palaces of Dwarka. And he found the descriptions of that in some of the scriptures, you know, and he actually discovered those stones. Anyway, just to tell you that what I'm saying is a bona fide example. So this Brahmana went right in to Krishna's palace, and he told Krishna that I have a letter for you. So obviously Krishna interviewed him a little bit, understood him, and then he told him, read the letter loudly. I'm yet to come across someone telling him to read love letter loudly. I mean, who does that, isn't it? But for Krishna, there is nothing private. The love affair of Krishna and his devotees is a public affair. It's not something you have to hide from the world, you know. I mean, most people who come to Krishna consciousness newly, they kind of try to hide their love affair with Krishna from the world. Because they feel, what will everybody think, you know. But from Krishna's point of view, there is nothing to hide. It's all open. And you don't have to be ashamed of it, you know. So we have to understand the spirit of Krishna. So if we are feeling ashamed of our connection with Krishna, that means somewhere we kind of haven't understood Krishna completely. Krishna prefers you make open declarations about your love affair with Krishna. And this Brahmana, in front of the whole court, he read out the love letter Rukmini has written to Krishna. And when Krishna heard those words, he instantly connected with Rukmini. He realized, here is a person who really understands my heart. Krishna didn't even look at Rukmini. He's not even seen Rukmini, but just heard the letter written by Rukmini. That's all. Our words carry a lot of sincerity. Our words carry our intentions. Our words show exactly what is our consciousness. And therefore, we have to be very careful of what we speak, because what we speak reveals a lot about our character. Lord Ram, when he met Hanumanji, he heard Hanumanji speak for a few seconds, literally. And in those few seconds that Ram heard Hanumanji speak, he knew everything about Hanumanji. He knew about his education, he knew about his character, he knew about his habits, everything he knew the moment he heard Hanuman speak a few words. Therefore, it is said, a fool goes undetected till he opens his mouth. The moment he opens his mouth, you understand he's a fool. And the same thing with intelligence, you know. The moment an intelligent person starts speaking, you understand this is different. This person is a different level, isn't it? So Rukmini's words helped Krishna understand her completely. In those few minutes that the letter was being read, Krishna decided, this is the person I want to be with for my entire life. Imagine, just by reading one letter, Krishna made a conclusion like that. And Krishna told this Brahmana that I will go. But at that point in time, the interesting situation was that Rukmini's marriage with Shishupal was the next day morning. And when Rukmini knew that this is the amount of time that it's going to take for the Brahmana to reach Krishna, but she also knew Krishna's capacity. And she told in that letter, she wrote down a plan of how we can get away from there. Rukmini is a Kshatriya woman, isn't it? She just doesn't write a impractical letter like that, She wrote a letter with a plan. And from her side, she did her best. And then now it is up to Krishna, right? What he wants to do. We from our side, we can do our best. And yesterday we were talking about what we need to do, what is our role. So from our side, we do our best and send the message to Krishna. And then after that, it is up to him. So in the meanwhile, while this Brahmana and Krishna's conversation was happening, Krishna obviously decided that he wants to leave. He told Daruk, immediately take out my chariot. I want to leave to Vidarbha. They covered the distance from Gujarat to Vidarbha overnight. And the way the chariot of Krishna was moving at such a pace. So Rukmini Devi, in the meanwhile, she was not sure what's going to happen. And her marriage was just a few hours away. She had no idea whether this Brahmana had met Krishna or no. She had no idea whether Krishna wants to marry her or no. She has no idea whether, what is in store for her. But she knows that she has to only keep hope, basically. So when you make right choices, challenges come into your life. And when you take up those challenges test your commitment. And the way to deal with the test of commitment is that you connect with the spiritual master. And when you connect with the spiritual master, one of the things that really happens to you is you develop composure. This is the fifth C. What is the meaning of composure? Composure means that spiritual life takes its time. It's not like, I come today and I'm pure devotee tomorrow, There are many people who take up chanting and then after 1 or 2 weeks, they come and tell me, Prabhuji, nothing is happening. I tell them, Baba, what do you expect to happen? Do you expect suddenly you'll have wings and you start flying? Do you expect to get a halo around your head? What do you expect to happen suddenly, in 1 or 2 weeks? This is the problem. The problem is that we don't have composure. Spiritual life requires a lot of composure. And when we connect to the spiritual master gives you that hope. That don't worry. Relax. Krishna will come. So here, Rukmini Devi, she is in a matter of few hours going to get married to Shubha. And she will obviously not survive. The letter she wrote that if Shishupal gets to marry me, I will end my life. She said, in fact, she told Krishna that what is meant for the lion should not go to the dogs. Very graphic analogy, And Rukmini Devi, she was trying to look for some signs. She was trying to look for some sign that Krishna is coming. And then as she was in her desperation to look for some signs, she saw in her inner circle of all the women that were waiting to take her to the temple of Durga Devi, she saw the wife of the Brahmana there. That was the first sign she got. He said, this is a sign. I sent her husband to meet Krishna, Guru Patni, you can say, Guru Ma, whatever. So I'm seeing the wife of this Brahmana there. So that sign gave her a little hope, And then as she went further, she went to the temple, intensely prayed to Durga Devi that please let me have Krishna as my husband. Here is a very interesting example of Rukmini praying to Durga, So great devotees of the Lord also take shelter of the demigod sometimes. But in all their shelter, the request is only one. Let me connect with Krishna. So all these personalities, whether it is, any of the devatas, they have managerial roles in this world, but along with that, they also have the responsibility to connect you with Krishna. They have the responsibility to connect you with Krishna, and they carry out the responsibility very well. For those people who approach them only with material thoughts, they deal with them at that level. But those who approach them with something higher, they also assist them at that level. So when Rukmini Devi had gone to the temple of Durga Devi, she offered the prayer there, and she came out. As soon as she came out, there was a crowd over there, massive crowd. So many of these kings, Shishupal, Jarasandha, all these powerful kings were all there. And when Rukmini came out of that temple, the beauty of Rukmini Devi was so amazing and so intense that many of those people who saw the first darshan of Rukmini fainted. They couldn't handle the beauty of Mother Rukmini. People are falling off from elephants, people are falling off from chariots. Imagine, And while this chaos was happening, among them, Rukmini Devi saw this Brahmana standing. That was her second sign. She couldn't see Krishna anywhere, but she saw this Brahmana there. So she thought maybe, Krishna might come. The way we hold composure in our hearts is by seeing signs of Krishna reciprocating with you in your life. Anyone who's practicing spiritual life sincerely will come across signs. Will come across signs. They will not be big signs. They will always be small signs, very tiny little signs, but signs for sure. And I'm sure all of us will experience this. I'll tell you my own story. When I began writing in 2013, the first book I wrote was Ramayana, the Game of Life, the first volume. After I wrote this book, I was going through a very strange, phase. Because at that time in ISKCON Chobati, I was like literally the first person to write a book. And the two book that got published by an outside publishing house, and it became a national bestseller. For me, I was feeling I was happy, but at the same time, I was feeling that, am I doing the right thing? Do I have the right to write a book on Ramayana? Am I the right person? I was having my own self-doubts. And at that time, I was like a young kid, I'm still a young kid, but at that point, I was literally a baby in spiritual life. So I really didn't know whether I was doing the right thing or wrong thing. But I was praying, for some kind of sign to know. So in that phase, I was invited to Mauritius to give some lectures. And so I was there for about 10 days in Mauritius. And then in that trip, one particular morning, they called me to give a Bhagavatam class in one of the temples there. And obviously, it was an unscheduled class. So it was not that it was planned before. Just the previous evening, they told me, can you give Bhagavatam the next day? I said, fine, I'll give. So I went there, sat on the Vyasasana. They didn't even give me the verse number. After I sat there, I opened the Bhagavatam and saw the verse. When I read the verse, this is the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, a section of the third canto of Bhagavatam. And there were two verses that day given to me. When I saw those two verses, I had tears in my eyes. It was unbelievable. So the Bhagavatam is 18,000 verses, isn't it? And this was sequentially happening. So this was like, it's not every day they're doing one verse of Bhagavatam. This is third canto, two verses that came to me. In the entire Srimad Bhagavatam, only the ninth canto of Bhagavatam has some Ramayana in it. But in the rest of the whole Bhagavatam, there's only two verses that have anything about Ramayana in it, and those are the two verses that came to me. I mean, you can imagine, my state that day, I was amazed. I literally had tears in my eyes. What is the possibility that only those two verses come to me, of all the 18,000 verses? It's not possible only. That day I realized this is what I need to do. And then from then I became completely Vilas. That's how Krishna reciprocates with us. He gives us little signs. I mean, this is not something major, but for me, it was something very important. It was a sign of reciprocation for me. So, for all of us, there will be some definitive signs that come into our lives. The Krishna is saying, you are going in the right direction. You have some hope. And those are the signs that keep us going in our spiritual lives. Those are the signs that keep us composed in spite of all the chaos in our lives, in spite of all the challenges that we go through in our lives. And when Rukmini saw that little sign, she felt a little better. And then suddenly, in the midst of all these people are falling off from elephants and people are all dazed, And in that little moment that everybody was collapsing, a chariot ran past all of them, came right in front of Rukmini, picked up. Krishna just held her hand and picked up, put her in the chariot, and whisked her away. And Rukmini was amazed at the speed at which it happened. She had not even got to see Krishna properly. And Krishna already pulled her and put her in a chariot and took her away. And all these kings and all these people, they just recovered and realized Rukmini is gone. And they were shocked and they didn't know what happened. And then they suddenly saw this chariot going away with her. And they started chasing Krishna and Rukmini. And Rukmini was scared. She was scared, first of all, because she is eloping with a stranger. She has never ever met him in the past. First time she is seeing him and he's taking her away. And on top of that, there are thousands of these people following them, chasing them. Arrows are flying in all directions. It's a war. What a love story, isn't it? Right in the middle of the starting of the love story, there's a war going on here. And Rukmini is so scared and she looks at Krishna in that great fear, And suddenly, Krishna's chariot is going ahead and this whole, enemies are following, chasing them. Suddenly, in between, Balramji comes with the Yadava Sena. And right in between, he intersects. And he fights with these people. And Krishna is taking Rukmini away. And Krishna turns towards Rukmini and speaks the first sentence to Rukmini. And the first sentence Krishna tells Rukmini is just so heart-touching. It reveals who Krishna is. It reveals how Krishna connects with his devotees. You know what Krishna tells Rukmini? Krishna looks at her in her eyes and he tells her, don't worry, your army will take care of the enemies. He says, your army will take care of the enemies. He has handed over the full property to Rukmini Devi, even before the marriage. Imagine. He says, your army. And that's so hope-giving for someone, right? I mean, here is a girl who has left her family, who has left everything for the sake of this person. And what does he say? It's your army. It's completely made full transfer of property to Rukmini's name. And when Rukmini hears that, she feels, I have chosen the right person. This is Krishna. The moment Krishna comes into your life, there's a lot that goes on for Krishna to come, isn't it? First, you have to make the right choice. And when you make the right choices, challenges will come. Challenges test your commitment. And when you want to pass the test of commitment, you need to get connection to the spiritual master. The spiritual master helps you get composure. And when you are composed, you wait for Krishna to come. And the last C is that certainly he comes. The last C is certainty. He will come. But he will come according to his time, not according to your time. We think, basically, like suppose I have to make a call to somebody in India. There's a time difference, right? I need to figure out which time zone I am in, which time zone I'm making call to. So I can't just pick up the phone and make a call to someone who is, is in the middle of the night. It won't work. I have to be careful of time zones, isn't it? So we expect Krishna to come into our life according to our time zone. But Krishna comes according to his time zone. So when he says, I will come, you expect that he will come tomorrow. He'll come when the right time comes. Till then, I have to have composure. But there is certainty that he'll come. There is certainty that Krishna will come for you. So till then, I need to be composed. So Rukmini Devi here, in her journey to getting connected with Krishna, is actually revealing to us our own journey in connecting with Krishna. And I'm sure if we just follow the process that Rukmini Devi followed, one day, for sure, we will connect with Krishna. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Any questions, comments? Yes.
We've never heard such class before. Thank you so much. I was just thinking about this thing. When I do not know if there is a composer at my stage, but when we think about there are those indications from Krishna, there is a doubt whether those indications are created by the mind or they are created by our emotions rather than actually those indications coming from Krishna. How do we discriminate between these two?
In my opinion and my little experience, the question is, how do you know that the signs are coming from Krishna or created by our mind? You know, you might think that something is a sign coming by Krishna, but it might be created by our mind. In my experience, if a sign is coming from Krishna, it will come 3 times. It will come 3 times from 3 different sources. That's my answer. So if the same thing, like, you know, if Krishna wants you to do something, he will tell the same thing through 3 different people. You might get it from your heart, but somebody else from outside might give you the same thought without even knowing. You might see it somewhere else. So the sign repeats if it is Krishna's sign. That's what I meant to say.
Just clarification on that part. When you mentioned about the point that Krishna asked to read that love letter loudly, sorry, like what is told is our inner experiences we don't share with anyone else. It just we keep it with ourselves. So the challenge is that those 3 indications, because the person is not sharing with others, so those 3 indications has to come from within only, because there's no external person who is actually manifesting those 3 answers or 3 ways.
You forget there's Paramatma in everybody's heart. You don't have to tell something to somebody. They'll understand it. And if Paramatma wants them to talk, they will tell you. That's what I'm trying to tell you. It's not that you influence them to tell you that answer. It just happens. It just happens. That's how Paramatma guides, basically.
Guruji, this question came in my mind because you said yesterday and today, so like you're comparing Rukmini and Sadhana. These very good people, friendly, there's a great personality. So, you know, how Sadhana can give blind depression? I mean, how we can take it?
See, there is something known as Viryaras. Viryaras means it's a rasa of chivalry, of courage. Now, if you are a Brahmana or a Vaishya or a Shudra in mindset, you don't understand what Viryaras is. I can understand what Viryaras is, but Viryaras exists. Viryaras is a rasa of chivalry. In Viryaras, when 2 people fall in love with each other, they give big plans. That's part of love. it's being courageous. And people who are at that level only can love at that level. Rukmini was a Kshatriya woman. She was not an ordinary woman. She can make plans. She can make very good plans.
Thank you, Rohit. Yes, so it was definitely answered, but now I have something. So this is one of the very, very wonderful. Very, uh, following your advice, I kind of wrote something yesterday, and after I wrote, I felt some mercy. So I really appreciate now that the process of writing is so powerful. So Rohit, my question is that so after you make the choices, there are challenges. And of course, you said to pray to spiritual master. So there are many things that come in the way, which people may say, which may look attractive, but it's not good. So what to do so that the intelligence can be so sharp and the heart can be so connected to the goal that despite whatever people may say or even the mind may prompt you to others, that you don't entertain that thought and just continue on what is supposed to. Like you have mentioned with it how the voice of Maya is very loud and Krishna whisper is very soft. So that's the thing and how to
I tell you a story to help you understand this. There was a king who wanted to punish a criminal who had done something wrong. But this criminal was also his best friend. So the king was feeling, really bad to punish him, give him a death sentence. But at the same time, he had to do it. So he came up with a very unique idea. There were two thieves at that time who were caught, and this fellow was one of them. So the king told the two of them, that I will give you all one chance. If you all manage to, take the chance and survive, you can go home. But if in the process you die, then it's not my fault. So he said, he made them climb a building, like a tall building. And from that building, the terrace of that building, to the terrace of the next building, they put a tight rope. And the king said, you walk over this rope, reach the other building. If you reach, then you go home. If you fall in between, then I don't know what will happen to you. So imagine. So these two guys, they had to climb this building and they saw the other building, it's like a long distance, very thin rope. So then both of them started saying, you first. How will you want to go first? One guy got up, stood up on the wall, and started walking towards the other building on that rope. Step by step, he reached the other side and got off. This guy said, how did you do it? You can't even walk on the road straight. How did you walk over here? And this fellow, he gave a very interesting answer. That's the answer to your question. He said two things. On that side, he's telling. He said two things. First thing is that keep your eye on the other wall. Keep your eye on the joint between the rope and the other wall. Don't take your eye off that goal. That's the first step that we need to do. Walking on a tight rope, spirituality is walking on a razor's edge. You're walking on a tight rope, your eye has to be on that goal. And then when you're walking, it'll happen that you tilt in one direction and you're about to fall off. Every time you seem to be tilting in one direction, jerk and come back. And then you'll fall again in another direction, jerk and come back. Fall another direction, jerk and come back. So keep walking, you will totter. You will go through, where you're losing alignment, but just jerk and come back. And keep that eye on that goal. So as we practice our spiritual journeys, you will find that there is sometimes you kind of lose your alignment and you lose your focus on the direction. There should be an internal alarm system that tells you, come back. And if the internal alarm system doesn't function well for you, you can ask someone to help you. You can ask someone to, there could be something known as accountability partners, where you take someone whom you are accountable to and who that person is accountable to you. And together you will tread the path. Make sense?
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this. It's like every year, like every act that we do, or every decision we make, it is like a checklist for us. Every step towards the goal. Thank you so much. My question is, Prabhu mentioned about that there are different personalities of Krishna of identical aspect of seeing connection to Krishna. How can we reconcile the fact with when the Vaishnav is like taking like they're offering, but wasn't that in relation to Krishna? How can I reconcile that?
See, you look at many ways, na? The gopis did Katyani Vrata, and they were doing it for Krishna. They were doing it for having Krishna as their husband. The moment you look at devatas as disconnected from Krishna, they become demigods. The moment you see their alignment with Krishna, they become devotees. And worshipping devotees is a part of our process, isn't it?
Vishnu Guruji, thank you so much for all your class. My question is regarding the choices that we make and the challenges that we face. In the initial part, when the choices comes, it's voluntary, and also we need courage to take that choice. And then when the challenges comes, we also need the strength to overcome that challenges. So how to have that, or how to maintain that courage and strength to take those choices and overcome those challenges?
See, risk is a part of life. You can't avoid it. Whether to do a business, whether to drive a car, or whether to go in a flight, in everything you do in life, there is a risk. But what risk is worth taking is what you should think about. So taking the process of Krishna consciousness is also a risk. Many people say, "Arey, what is this? We're losing everything, we're losing our, all our enjoyment in this life." We're taking a risk in one sense. But is that risk worth it? Like, for example, Srila Prabhupada was asked by one reporter, what if at the end of your life, you come to know that Krishna doesn't exist? What will you do? Prabhupada looked at him and he said, there is no loss. I had a good life. I ate the best of food. I had so many dancing parties. We sang such beautiful songs. We ate such delicious food. We had such good company. We read such good books. At the end of our life, we come to know Krishna doesn't exist. There is no loss because we enjoyed our life. Then Prabhupada asked him, what if you come to know at the end of your life Krishna does exist? What will you do? So there is risk in both sides, basically, isn't it? Which risk is worth taking is what the question is. So when you take up the path of Krishna consciousness, there is an innate amount of risk involved in it. There is an innate amount of courage that you need to take that path. But that is why you need to first use logic and reasoning to understand whether the path I'm following is the right path. Don't do it because somebody is telling you to do it. Do it because you want to do it. And that is where you need to use your intelligence. In the beginning of our spiritual life, intelligence should be ahead and faith should be behind. At a later stage in our spiritual life, there will be points in time where you need to put your intelligence behind and faith ahead. So, but at the beginning stage, always keep your intelligence ahead and your faith behind. It will never let you down. So when you understand logically and with reasoning, you're convinced that this is the path that I want to follow. That's it. Then courage comes out on its own. Courage always comes when there is clarity. When you're confused, you won't get the courage to go ahead. Okay.
First of all, it was such an enchanting class. Each and every word of the class was worth hearing and very much absorbing. In connection to today's class, I've heard there are a lot of stories about reading out different Maharan's prayers. So I would like to hear some glories of these prayers from you.
The most important glory is that you will fall in love with Krishna. From a Falastuti point of view, that's considered to be one of the Falastutis of this prayer, that it helps you fall in love with Krishna. And the prayers of Rukmini Maharani, Rukmini Devi, it helps you understand the philosophical perspective of why you should take shelter of Krishna. These are two things I feel are the Falastuti. Thank you very much for everyone for their patient listening and enthusiastic participation. I'm very, very grateful and honored to be here in the Parmenton Hill Temple, serving all of you all. Sunday feast will be the last session I'll do in this place. But I'm hoping to stay in touch with you all and come often sometime in the future. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Yantrashmi Bhagavatam ki, Gopal ki.